There is a blood type so rare that fewer than 50 people in the entire world have it. Think about that for a second. There are almost 8 billion humans on this planet, and only about 50 of them have this blood. Scientists call it Rh-null, but most people know it by its nickname, golden blood. And no, it is not actually gold-colored. It looks just like regular blood, red and everything. The name comes from how incredibly valuable and precious it is. For the handful of people who have it, this blood is worth more than gold because it can save lives that no other blood type can save. But here is the thing that makes golden blood both a miracle and a curse. If you have it, you can donate to almost anyone with rare blood types. You are basically a universal donor for people with weird blood. That makes you incredibly valuable to hospitals and blood banks around the world. But if you ever need blood yourself, you are in serious trouble, because the only blood that will work for you is more golden blood. And good luck finding that when there are only about 50 people on the entire planet who can help you. This is the story of golden blood. How it was discovered, why it exists, what it means for the people who have it, and why scientists are so fascinated by it. We are going to go deep into the science of blood types, the genetics behind this rare condition, and the real human stories of people living with the rarest blood on Earth. Let us start at the beginning. What even is blood type? Most people know about the basic blood types: A, B, and O. You probably learned about this in school at some point. Your blood type is determined by what is sitting on the surface of your red blood cells. Think of red blood cells like tiny little balls floating through your bloodstream. On the outside of these balls, there are things called antigens. Antigens are basically markers or tags that tell your immune system, hey, this cell belongs here, do not attack it. If you have type A blood, your red blood cells have A antigens on them. Type B means you have B antigens. Type AB means you have both A and B antigens. And type O means you have neither A nor B antigens on your cells. This matters a lot for blood transfusions. If you get blood that has antigens your body does not recognize, your immune system freaks out. It sees those foreign antigens and thinks your body is being invaded by something dangerous, so it attacks the new blood. This can cause a transfusion reaction, which can make you very sick or even kill you. That is why hospitals are so careful about matching blood types. But here is where it gets more complicated. A, B, and O are not the only blood type systems. Not even close. Those are just the most famous ones because they were discovered first and they are the most important for basic transfusions. But scientists have actually identified over 300 different antigens that can appear on red blood cells. 300. And these antigens are grouped into about 36 different blood type systems. One of the most important of these other systems is called the Rh system. You have probably heard of this one too. When someone says they are A positive or O negative, That positive or negative part refers to the Rh system. Specifically, it refers to one particular antigen called the Rhd antigen. If you have this antigen, you are Rh positive. If you do not have it, you are Rh negative. About 85% of people are Rh positive. The remaining 15% are Rh negative. Being Rh negative is not super rare, but it is uncommon enough that blood banks have to be careful about keeping enough Rh negative blood in stock. But the Rhd antigen is just one of 61 different antigens in the Rh system. That is right, 61 different antigens, all in one blood type system. Most people have never heard of the other 60 because they rarely cause problems. Your blood cells are covered in dozens of these Rh antigens, and for most people, this is totally fine. Their bodies make all these antigens, other people's bodies make all these antigens, and blood transfusions work out okay. But sometimes, very rarely, a person is born without some of these Rh antigens. They might be missing one or two of them. This is called having an Rh variant blood type. It is rare, but it happens. Doctors have to be more careful when these people need transfusions because giving them blood with antigens they are missing can cause problems. And then there is golden blood, Rh-null. People with this blood type are missing all 61 Rh antigens, every single one. Their red blood cells are completely bare of any Rh markers whatsoever. It is like their cells just never got the memo about what team they were supposed to be on. The first case of Rh-null blood was discovered in 1961 in an Aboriginal Australian woman. Doctors were doing routine blood tests and they could not figure out what blood type she had. Every test they ran came back weird. Her blood did not react the way any known blood type should react. They eventually figured out that she was missing all the Rh antigens, something that scientists had thought was basically impossible. They assumed you needed at least some Rh antigens to survive. But this woman was alive and healthy. Somehow, her body was functioning perfectly fine without any Rh proteins on her red blood cells. It was a medical mystery. How could this be? Since that first discovery in 1961, doctors have identified only about 43 people with confirmed Rh-null blood. That number is not exact because some cases might not be properly documented, especially in parts of the world with limited medical testing. But even being generous with the estimate, we are talking about fewer than 50 people on a planet of almost 8 billion humans. To put that in perspective, you are more likely to be struck by lightning multiple times in your life than to have Rh-null blood. You are more likely to become a professional athlete, win an Oscar, and discover a new species of animal all in the same lifetime than to have golden blood. It is astronomically rare. So why does this happen? What causes someone to have no Rh antigens at all? The answer lies in genetics, and it is pretty interesting. The Rh antigens on your blood cells are made by genes. Specifically, two genes called Rhd and Rhce work together to produce the proteins that become Rh antigens. These genes contain instructions for building the Rh proteins, and your cells follow those instructions to make the antigens. For golden blood to occur, something has to go wrong with these genes. There are actually two different ways this can happen. The first way is called the regulated type. In this case, the Rhd and Rhce genes themselves are totally normal. They contain perfectly good instructions for making Rh proteins, but there is another gene called Rhag that is supposed to help the Rh proteins get to the surface of the red blood cell. Think of Rag as the delivery driver. It takes the Rh proteins that the cell made and carries them to the outside of the cell where they belong. If the Rhag gene has a mutation, it cannot do its delivery job properly. The Rh proteins get made inside the cell, but they never make it to the surface. So from the outside, the cell looks like it has no Rh antigens at all. The second way is called the amorph type. In this case, the Rhd and Rhce genes themselves are mutated or missing. They either have errors that make them not work, or they are just not there at all. Without proper instructions, the cell cannot make Rh proteins in the first place. No proteins made means no proteins to deliver to the surface. Both types result in the same thing: red blood cells with 0 Rh antigens. But knowing which type someone has can matter for medical reasons and for understanding how the condition runs in families. Speaking of families, golden blood is inherited. It runs in bloodlines. But because it is caused by recessive genes, both of your parents have to carry the gene mutation for you to end up with Rh-null blood. They do not have to have golden blood themselves. They just have to each carry one copy of the mutated gene. When two carriers have a child, there is a 1 in 4 chance that child will have Rh-null blood. This is why golden blood is often found in communities with a lot of intermarriage, or in isolated populations where the same gene variants keep getting passed around. The more closely related a community is genetically, the more likely it is that two carriers will meet and have children together. This is not a judgment, just a genetic reality. Now, let us talk about what life is actually like for someone with golden blood. First, the good stuff. People with Rh-null blood are universal donors within the Rh system. What does that mean? It means their blood can be safely given to anyone who has an Rh variant blood type. Remember, there are lots of people out there who are missing one or a few Rh antigens. When these people need blood transfusions, doctors have to find blood that does not have the antigens they are missing. Otherwise, their immune systems will attack the donated blood. For many of these patients, finding compatible blood is really hard. Blood banks might not have blood that matches their specific Rh variant. Doctors might have to search across multiple hospitals or even multiple countries to find a match. But golden blood has no Rh antigens at all, 0. So it will not trigger a reaction in anyone with Rh blood types, no matter which antigens they are missing. It is like the universal donor blood within the Rh system, one blood type that can help almost anyone with rare Rh issues. This makes golden blood incredibly valuable to medicine. Blood banks around the world are desperate to have some in storage because it can save lives that other blood types cannot save. When someone with a rare Rh variant has an emergency and needs blood right now, golden blood might be the only option. Because of this, some people with Rh-null blood choose to donate regularly. They know how rare and precious their blood is, and they want to help. But here is the tricky part. Donating is not simple for them. They cannot just walk into any blood bank and donate. Their blood is so rare and valuable that it needs special handling and documentation. Often, their donations are tracked internationally through rare blood registries. A donation made in France might end up being shipped to save someone in Japan or Brazil. Some golden blood donors have become minor celebrities in the medical world. Doctors and researchers know them by name. Blood banks keep in regular contact with them. There are only a few dozen people in the world who can provide this blood, so each one of them matters enormously. But now, let us talk about the scary part. The part that makes golden blood a curse as much as a blessing. If you have Rh-null blood and you need a transfusion yourself, you are in big trouble. Your body will reject regular blood because regular blood has Rh antigens that your immune system has never seen before. Your immune system treats those antigens as foreign invaders and attacks them. This can cause a severe transfusion reaction. Fever, chills, low blood pressure, kidney failure, and potentially death. The only blood that is safe for you is more Rh-null blood. And where are you going to find that? There are maybe 50 people in the world who have it. Most of them do not live anywhere near you. Even if you can locate a donor, it might take days or weeks to get their blood shipped to your hospital. If you have been in a car accident and you are bleeding out on an operating table, you do not have days or weeks. You might not even have hours. This is the terrifying reality that people with golden blood live with every day. They know that an emergency could kill them simply because the blood they need does not exist nearby. A car crash, a surgery gone wrong, childbirth complications, internal bleeding from any cause. Things that would be manageable for most people could be deadly for them. Because of this, many people with golden blood take extra precautions in their lives. They carry medical ID cards that explain their condition. They make sure their doctors know. They try to build up a small personal supply of their own blood, stored at blood banks, just in case they need it someday. Some avoid risky activities or jobs. Some make sure they always live relatively close to medical facilities. A few choose to never donate their blood to others and instead keep all their donations frozen and stored for their own potential future use. You cannot really blame them. Donating could mean giving away the blood that might save their own life someday. Others take the opposite approach. They donate generously, knowing that their blood can save lives, and they accept the risk that comes with having less saved for themselves. It is an incredibly personal decision, and there is no right answer. Let me tell you about Thomas, one of the most famous golden blood cases in the world. Thomas is a Swiss man who was discovered to have Rh-null blood in the 1970s. For decades, he has been one of the most important rare blood donors on the planet. He has donated blood regularly throughout his adult life, and his blood has been shipped to patients in dozens of countries. Thomas knows the risks he faces. He knows that his generosity means he has less blood stored for himself. But he has seen the letters from patients whose lives he saved. He has heard about the children who survived emergencies because his blood was available. For him, the choice is clear. He would rather help others and accept the risk than hoard his blood while people die. But Thomas also follows strict rules for his own safety. He avoids dangerous activities. He drives carefully. He makes sure his family and doctors know exactly what to do if he is ever injured. He has thought through every scenario. He has to. For him, a bad accident is not just scary, it is potentially unsafe. There are other golden blood donors with similar stories. A woman in Brazil, a man in Japan, a few scattered individuals across Europe and America. Each one of them carries this strange burden of being both incredibly valuable and incredibly vulnerable at the same time. Now, let us get into some more of the science, because the genetics of this are actually fascinating. Remember how I said there are two main genes involved, RhD and Rhce. These genes are located very close together on chromosome 1. They are so similar that scientists think they originally evolved from a single ancestral gene that got duplicated at some point in our evolutionary history. The two copies then slowly became different over time. The RhD gene is responsible for making the RhD antigen, the one that determines whether you are Rh positive or Rh negative. Most people have this gene, but about 15% of people, particularly those of European descent, are missing it entirely. Their chromosome 1 just does not have the RhD gene at all. These are the Rh negative people you have probably heard about. The Rhce gene makes the other Rh antigens called C, Ce, and E. Almost everyone has this gene in some form. The different versions of this gene are what give people different combinations of these antigens. For someone to have golden blood, both of these genes have to be either missing, broken, or somehow blocked from doing their job. That requires multiple genetic changes happening together, which is why it is so rare. Scientists have now identified more than a dozen different mutations that can cause Rh-null blood. Some are deletions, where whole chunks of DNA are just missing. Some are point mutations, where a single letter in the genetic code is changed in a way that breaks the gene. Some affect the RhD and Rhce genes directly. Others affect the Rag helper gene that delivers the proteins to the cell surface. Each family with golden blood tends to have their own specific mutation. The mutation in one family might be completely different from the mutation in another family. This makes sense when you realize that these mutations are extremely rare and arise independently in different populations. It is not like there is one golden blood gene that everyone inherited from a common ancestor. Instead, different families hit upon the same result through different genetic paths. This also means that not all golden blood is exactly identical. A person with one type of mutation might have slightly different medical characteristics than a person with another type. For example, some Rh-null individuals have red blood cells that are slightly abnormal in shape or fragility. They might break down a little faster than normal, leading to mild anemia. Other Rh-null individuals have perfectly normal cells that function completely fine. The exact consequences seem to depend on which specific mutation caused the condition and what effect it has on the cell. The Rh proteins are not just meaningless markers. They actually help maintain the structure and stability of the red blood cell membrane. When they are missing, the cell might not be quite as sturdy as it should be. But for most Rh-null people, this effect is minor. They might not even notice it. Some researchers have suggested that Rh-null blood cells might actually move through tiny blood vessels more easily than normal cells, because they have a slightly different shape. This is speculative, but it is an interesting possibility. Maybe being Rh-null has some minor advantages along with its disadvantages. Now, I want to talk about how golden blood is actually discovered, because it is not like doctors routinely test for it. Most people with Rh-null blood do not find out about their condition until something unexpected happens. Maybe they need a blood transfusion for surgery and the hospital cannot match their blood. Maybe they donate blood and the blood bank notices something strange in the test results. Maybe they are pregnant and routine prenatal blood tests come back weird. That last scenario is actually pretty common. When a pregnant woman's blood is tested, doctors want to know if there could be any incompatibility between her blood and the baby's blood. If the mother's immune system attacks the baby's blood cells, it can cause serious problems. So hospitals test pregnant women's blood carefully. For women with rare blood types, these tests often flag something unusual. The woman gets referred to a specialist. More detailed testing is done. And sometimes, very rarely, the answer is Rh-null. Once golden blood is discovered, it is a life-changing diagnosis. The person has to learn about their condition, understand the risks, make decisions about donating and storing blood, and figure out how to live safely in a world that is not designed for them. They get connected with rare blood registries and usually become known to hematologists and transfusion specialists. There is a whole network of rare blood programs around the world that track these individuals. The International Blood Group Reference Laboratory in England maintains databases of rare blood types. Similar programs exist in France, the United States, Japan, and other countries. These organizations help coordinate when someone with rare blood needs a transfusion. They know who the donors are, where the frozen supplies are stored, and how to get blood shipped quickly across borders when needed. For something as rare as golden blood, This international coordination is essential. A patient in Australia might need blood from a donor in Europe. An emergency in South America might require pulling stored blood from Asia. Without the registries and their networks, these patients would simply die because no one would know where to find compatible blood. Let us talk about some of the other rarest blood types in the world, because golden blood is not the only one that is incredibly scarce. There is a blood type called Bombay blood, which is found mainly in India. People with Bombay blood are missing the H antigen, which is a precursor to the A and B antigens. Without the H antigen, their cells cannot make A or B antigens, even if they have the genes for them. On a standard blood test, Bombay blood looks like type O, but it is not the same as type O at all. If a person with Bombay blood receives regular type O blood, they can have a transfusion reaction. They need blood from other Bombay donors. Bombay blood is rare, affecting maybe 1 in 10,000 people in India and even fewer elsewhere. But compared to golden blood, it is downright common. There are enough Bombay blood donors that most patients can find a match, especially in India, where the condition is most prevalent. There are also various rare variants within the ABO system and other blood group systems. Some people are missing antigens that almost everyone else has. Some people have antigens that almost no one else has. Each of these rare types creates challenges for transfusion, but most are not as severe as Rh-null because there are more donors available. What makes golden blood uniquely challenging is the combination of its extreme rarity with the fact that people who have it can only receive blood from other Rh-null donors. With some other rare types, patients can receive blood from more common types with extra precautions. But Rh-null patients have essentially zero alternatives. It is golden blood or nothing. Let me address some myths and misconceptions about golden blood, because there is a lot of weird information floating around online. First, golden blood is not literally gold-colored. It is red, like everyone else's blood. The nickname comes from its value and rarity, not its appearance. Second, having golden blood does not give you any special abilities or health benefits. You are not stronger, smarter, or longer lived because of it. If anything, you face extra health risks because of the difficulty getting transfusions. The Rh proteins that you are missing do have functions in the body, and being without them might cause subtle issues that we do not fully understand yet. Third, golden blood is not some kind of ancient bloodline or royal inheritance. There is no secret society of golden blood people. The genetic mutations that cause it arise randomly and independently in different families. You could be the first person in your entire family tree to have it if you happened to inherit the right combination of recessive genes from both parents. Fourth, scientists are not hiding golden blood or suppressing information about it. Research on rare blood types is actually very active and well documented. The challenge is just that, with so few cases, it is hard to study in depth. Every new patient who is discovered adds to our knowledge. Fifth, you cannot develop golden blood later in life. It is genetic and present from birth. You have it or you do not. However, some people go their entire lives without knowing they have it because they never get tested thoroughly enough. The discovery often comes by accident when routine blood tests give unexpected results. Now let us talk about what scientists are trying to learn from golden blood and why it matters for medicine beyond just the rare individuals who have it. Studying Rh-null blood helps researchers understand what the Rh proteins actually do in the body. For a long time, scientists were not sure why we had these proteins on our red blood cells. They seemed to just be markers that caused problems with transfusions. But why would evolution give us proteins that seem to serve no purpose? By studying people who lack these proteins, researchers can figure out what functions the proteins normally perform. It turns out that Rh proteins help maintain the shape and flexibility of red blood cells. They play a role in transporting molecules across the cell membrane. They interact with the cell's internal skeleton to keep the cell stable. People without Rh proteins usually have red blood cells that are a little more fragile than normal. The cells might be shaped slightly differently. They might break down a bit faster. Most Rh-null individuals compensate for this without any major symptoms, but studying them helps us understand the underlying biology. This knowledge could eventually lead to better treatments for blood disorders. If we understand exactly how Rh proteins affect cell stability, we might be able to develop drugs or therapies that mimic their function. This could help patients with various types of anemia or other red blood cell problems. Golden blood research also contributes to our understanding of human genetics and evolution. Why do these genes exist? Why are they so complex? How have they changed over time as humans evolved? Rare variants like Rh-null provide natural experiments that help answer these questions. There is also practical research into making artificial blood or lab-grown blood that could work for anyone, including people with the rarest types. If scientists could manufacture a universal blood substitute, it would solve so many problems. Emergency rooms would not have to worry about blood type matching. Rare blood patients would not live in fear of accidents. Blood shortages would become less deadly. We are not there yet. Artificial blood that works as well as the real thing has proven incredibly difficult to create. But research continues, and understanding rare blood types like Rh-null is part of that work. Let me tell you about the emotional and psychological side of having golden blood, because it is not just a medical curiosity. It affects every aspect of a person's life. Imagine growing up knowing that a serious injury could kill you, not because the injury itself is unsurvivable, but because the blood you need does not exist. Imagine watching your friends play sports, take risks, go on adventures, while you have to be extra careful about everything. Imagine planning your whole life around staying safe, living near hospitals, avoiding certain careers. People with golden blood often describe feeling isolated. Almost no one in the world shares their condition. There are no support groups at the local hospital. Most doctors they meet have never seen a case in person. They have to educate their own medical teams about their blood type. Some describe feeling guilty about the decisions they make. If they donate their blood, they might be saving a stranger's life at the cost of reducing their own safety margin. If they keep their blood for themselves, someone else might die. There is no good option, just difficult trade-offs. Many report that pregnancy is especially terrifying. Childbirth can involve serious bleeding. If something goes wrong, will there be compatible blood available? Some women with golden blood decide not to have children because the risk feels too great. Others go ahead with pregnancy, but with extensive planning and stored blood ready just in case. International travel becomes complicated. If you have a medical emergency in a foreign country, will they be able to find your blood type? Will they even understand what Rh-null means? People with golden blood often travel with medical documents translated into multiple languages, just in case. Even simple surgeries require months of preparation. Blood has to be located, secured, and shipped to the hospital in advance. The surgical team has to be briefed on the special circumstances. There is always the question of what happens if something unexpected occurs and more blood is needed than planned. The mental health impact of all this is real. Living with constant awareness of your own vulnerability takes a toll. Some people cope well and live full, adventurous lives despite the risks. Others become anxious and restrict their activities more than strictly necessary. There is no right way to handle it, and yet many people with golden blood talk about finding meaning in their condition. They feel special, not in an egotistical way, but in the sense that they have something unique to contribute to the world. Their blood can save lives that no one else can save. That is a genuine gift. Some have become advocates for blood donation in general, using their unusual story to encourage others to donate. They point out that while their blood is especially rare, all blood donations matter. The more people donate, the more lives get saved. Now let us look at how medicine handles golden blood in practice. When a patient with Rh-null blood needs surgery, hospitals start planning weeks or months in advance when possible. They contact rare blood registries to locate available donations. They reach out to known donors who might be able to give fresh blood. They arrange for frozen blood to be shipped from wherever it is stored. Hospitals also look at alternatives to transfusion whenever possible. Modern surgical techniques can minimize blood loss. Machines can recycle the patient's own blood during surgery and give it back to them. Doctors can use medications that help with clotting and reduce bleeding. Every unit of blood saved is critical when the supply is so limited. For Rh-null patients, even minor procedures that would normally require a little blood backup become major planning events. There is no margin for error. Everyone on the medical team has to understand the stakes. In true emergencies where there is no time for planning, Doctors face impossible choices. They might have to give incompatible blood and hope the reaction is manageable. They might have to perform surgery with no blood backup at all and pray there is no major bleeding. These are the nightmare scenarios that golden blood patients live with. Some hospitals and blood programs are working on building up strategic reserves of Rh-null blood. They encourage the known donors to give regularly, and they freeze the donations for long-term storage. Frozen red blood cells can last for 10 years or more if stored properly. Building up these reserves takes time because there are so few donors, but every unit stored is one more life potentially saved. There are also efforts to develop better methods for finding rare blood types. New genetic testing technologies make it easier to screen blood donors for unusual variants. The more people who get tested, the more likely we are to find new Rh-null individuals who can join the donor pool. Blood banks are starting to incorporate more detailed testing into their routine screening, which should help identify rare types earlier. Some researchers are working on ways to modify regular blood to make it compatible with rare blood types. If you could somehow strip the antigens off normal red blood cells, you might be able to create universal donor blood. This is technically challenging, but not impossible. Enzymes exist that can remove certain antigens from cells. The question is whether this can be done safely and at scale. Gene therapy is another potential future solution. If Rh-null is caused by genetic mutations, could we theoretically fix those mutations? Could we give someone's bone marrow the ability to produce normal red blood cells? This is very speculative and probably many years away from reality, but it is the kind of thing researchers think about. Let me talk about the global distribution of golden blood because it is not spread evenly around the world. Cases have been found on every inhabited continent, but certain populations seem to have slightly higher rates. This probably reflects the genetic bottlenecks and founder effects that occur when populations are isolated or when communities have high rates of intermarriage. The mutations that cause Rh-null can accumulate in such populations because both parents are more likely to carry the same recessive genes. It is worth noting that our knowledge of where golden blood exists is heavily biased by where thorough blood testing happens. In wealthy countries with advanced medical systems, rare blood types get detected. In poorer countries with limited testing, they might go unnoticed. There could be golden blood individuals in remote areas who have never been diagnosed and never will be unless the medical infrastructure reaches them. This has real consequences. A person with undiagnosed Rh-null blood who needs a transfusion in an area without sophisticated testing could die without anyone understanding why the transfusion failed. They would be given standard compatible blood based on basic testing. Their body would reject it, and the outcome would be tragic. Improving blood testing worldwide is a public health priority for many reasons, and helping identify rare blood types is one of them. The more complete our global picture of blood type distribution, the better we can prepare for the patients who need unusual blood. I want to address the question of whether golden blood has any evolutionary advantage, because people sometimes ask this about rare traits. Honestly, it is hard to see how Rh-null would provide any survival benefit. The Rh proteins serve real functions in the body, and being without them creates vulnerabilities. The condition also makes medical emergencies much more dangerous. If anything, Rh-null is probably slightly disadvantageous in evolutionary terms. But the disadvantage is small enough that it can persist in populations at very low levels. The mutations keep occurring randomly, and they do not kill people before they can reproduce, so they stick around. Some researchers have speculated that carrying one copy of an Rh-null mutation without having two copies and being fully Rh-null might provide some benefit. This is similar to how carrying one copy of the sickle cell gene provides malaria resistance, while having two copies causes sickle cell disease. But for Rh-null, no one has identified what that benefit might be. It remains speculation. The more likely explanation is that Rh-null is simply a rare genetic accident that happens occasionally in human populations. It persists because it is recessive and does not cause severe problems for carriers. There does not need to be an evolutionary advantage for it to exist. Let me close with some thoughts on what golden blood teaches us about biology, medicine, and humanity. First, it reminds us how incredibly complex our bodies are. Something as basic as blood type turns out to involve dozens of different proteins, hundreds of possible antigens, and countless genetic variants. The more we study, the more complexity we find. Golden blood was not even discovered until 1961 because we did not have the tools to detect it before then. Who knows what other rare variants exist that we have not found yet? Second, it shows how interconnected our global medical system has become. A blood donation in Switzerland can save a life in Australia. Rare disease registries span continents. International cooperation makes it possible to help patients who would have had zero options just a few decades ago. This is remarkable and worth appreciating. Third, it highlights the ethical dilemmas that come with rare medical conditions. How do you balance helping others with protecting yourself? How much risk should someone accept? Who decides? These questions have no easy answers, and watching how golden blood patients navigate them gives us insight into how humans handle impossible choices. Fourth, it underscores the importance of blood donation in general. Most people can donate blood safely and easily, but only a small percentage actually do. If you have common blood types, your donations might seem less dramatic than golden blood, but they save just as many lives. Every unit matters. If you are able to donate, please consider doing it. Fifth, it demonstrates how much we still have to learn. Despite decades of study, there are aspects of Rh-null blood that remain mysterious. How exactly do the Rh proteins affect cell function? Why do some Rh-null individuals have more symptoms than others? Could we develop treatments that help these patients? Research continues, and each new discovery builds on what came before. Golden blood sits at the intersection of genetics, medicine, ethics, and human experience. It is rare enough to seem almost mythical, but real enough to affect actual people living actual lives. Those people face challenges most of us will never understand, yet they also carry something extraordinary within them. The power to save lives that no one else can save. So that is the story of Rh-null blood, the rarest blood type on Earth. Fewer than 50 people have it. They can donate to almost anyone, but receive only from each other. They live with risks that most people never think about. And their blood is studied by scientists, trying to unlock the secrets of how our bodies work. Next time you see a blood donation drive, maybe stop and give if you can. You probably do not have golden blood, but your blood can still save someone's life. And somewhere out there, a person with the rarest blood on Earth might be grateful that the rest of us are doing our part to keep the world's blood supply healthy. Thanks for making it to the end of this one. If you learned something, share this with someone else who might find it interesting. And drop a comment with where you are watching from and what time it is. I love seeing all the different places and time zones represented. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.